A little more than a week ago, the Baltimore Bridge collapsed into the water, killing 6 construction workers. Like many of you, I've been watching the updates closely, and I'm confused about something. Not a single person in the mainstream media is questioning the story issued by the government. This is strange because I can think of numerous examples recently of the government lying to us. I think it's time that someone started asking some questions. The first thing that seems strange to me about the bridge collapse was the response by the government. The bridge collapsed after a cargo ship named Dolly hit the bridge at approximately 1:30 a.m. in the morning. 5 hours later, at 6:30 a.m., the Baltimore Police Commissioner held a press conference and said, "There is absolutely no indication that there is any terrorism or that this was done on purpose." After only 5 hours, they have already completed their investigation and decided what happened. Now, I'm not an expert in law enforcement, but is that normal? Later in the day, William Del Bagno, the head of the FBI's Baltimore field office, said, "There is no specific or credible information to suggest that there are ties to terrorism in this incident." And then Joe Biden made a statement saying, "Everything so far indicates that this was a terrible accident." So less than 24 hours after one of the worst infrastructure collapses in the US, the police, the FBI, and the President of the United States have all determined that this was all one big accident. How can they possibly say that? They ruled out all the other possibilities? According to the NTSB, the National Transportation Safety Board, investigators did not board the ship until the evening. That means the police made their determination 5 hours after the crash happened, before they had even been on the ship. How can they possibly have had an investigation? If there was no investigation, how could Joe Biden possibly know this was an accident? Now, the NTSB is handling the formal investigation, and they made a statement saying, "I have no doubt that we will be able to pull this together in hopefully 12 to 24 months. Excuse me? 2 years? It's going to take you 2 years to find out what happened. All the evidence is going to be gone in 2 years, and we're just supposed to take the government's word for it until then? This sounds like a cover-up. If this was legitimate, they would do an investigation in a month. Not in 5 hours, and not in 2 years. But what's really strange is the government will not release the name of the person piloting the boat. Why won't they release the name? I thought this was all just an accident. If this person did nothing wrong, why can't they release the name? It makes no sense. And this is why I don't understand why no one in the news media is asking any questions. If no crime was committed, the police have no reason to withhold the name of this person. Legally, they cannot refuse to give us the name. Something does not add up. Let's start looking at some of the details a little closer. The whole incident took place in 4 minutes. The story is that there was a power failure on the ship. They lost engines, and the ship drifted into the bridge. It was an accident. The first big question I have is, why didn't the backup generators come on? The story is that the ship was without power for 4 minutes. That's not normal. Now, I don't know the specs of the specific backup generators on this ship, but most backup power generators are designed to come on in 10 to 15 seconds. That's the whole point of backup power. You don't want it to take a long time. Cargo ships are required by law to have backup power generators for this very reason. So what happened here? Why did it take so long for the backup power to come on? In fact, if we look at the video, we see that the lights on the boat flash on and off. So in fact, the backup power was coming back on. But for some reason, in the story they're telling, they were not able to restart the engines. Why? Actually, in the official statement given by the American Pilots Association, they told us to ignore that we see the lights blinking on and off. According to them, it doesn't matter that the power was restored because the ship's engines never got running again. It was the power failure that caused the boat to run into the bridge. So let me see if I understand this. We're supposed to ignore what we see with our own eyes and just believe your story. Here's the problem. You can see black smoke coming from the smokestacks. The smoke would have come from the engines. The engines were doing something. Were they running the engines into the bridge? The video shows there was power and there was engines. But the government is telling us there was no power and no engines, and we should not believe our eyes. Why aren't they telling us what happened? As the boat gets closer, you can see the boat turn directly to face the bridge. But it doesn't just turn, it turns and stops when the bridge is directly ahead. If the boat was truly out of control, it would have kept turning, but it doesn't. It stops when the boat is directly facing the bridge. Clearly, there was enough control to stop it from turning, which raises the question, why did they stop it from turning only after it was directly facing the bridge? It looks to me like the boat is going full speed into the bridge. This whole story defies the laws of physics. Newton's first law of physics is that an object in motion will remain in motion unless acted upon by another force. So, if a boat is moving in water and it loses power, it would continue moving in a straight line. It wouldn't turn into the bridge. In addition, the official story claims that they tried to prevent the crash by dropping anchor on the port side of the ship. That would be the left side. Again, this is against the laws of physics. If there was drag on the left side of the boat would have turned left, not right into the bridge. Someone is lying about what happened. The story defies the laws of physics. Now, I have heard an explanation that there were currents in the water. The currents made the ship turn. That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. First of all, water currents do not flow into bridge pillars. But second, we've all seen the video. The ship turns, then stops turning, and then heads straight into the bridge. That's not a current. Also, we can look at the course of the ship. Here is the point where they lost power, 4 minutes before collision. You can see that the ship turns here in a sudden turn. If this was caused by the current, it would have been a gradual turn. It might have drifted a little bit, but the forward momentum would have kept the boat going forward. Remember that the boat had picked up speed going straight this entire distance. If the ship lost power, it would have kept going straight. Even if there was force from a current, they were only 4 minutes from the bridge. A current would not instantly change the course of this ship. Something would have had to cause it to suddenly turn right. Who turned this ship? And why won't they release the name of the pilot? It is not physically possible for this to happen without some external force causing it to veer off course. What is even more suspicious is that they have recovered the black box from the cargo ship. Upon inspection, it turns out that 2 minutes of data from the black box is missing. Excuse me? The 2 minutes that happened during the accident is gone? And no one else is thinking any of this seems suspicious? I thought the whole point of the black box was to capture data during an emergency. What else is strange is it turns out that investigators have found no cameras, no CCTV camera footage, and no electronic recorders on the bridge or in the engine room.
The operations and engineering group was able to board the vessel last night, and they did a walkthrough of the vessel, including the bridge and the engine room. They were looking for other electronic components, any sort of downloadable recorders, any sort of cameras, any sort of CCTV. They did not find any of those things.
Excuse me? There is no video or audio of what happened on the boat? What the flippity flop is going on? And no one in the news media is going to ask about this? The person who is supposed to be in charge of all of this is Pete Buttigieg, the U.S. Secretary of Transportation. In case you were wondering what Pete has been doing, here he is explaining how he thinks that bridges are racist.
If an underpass was constructed such that a bus carrying mostly black and Puerto Rican kids to a beach, or there would have been, in New York was designed too low for it to pass by, that obviously reflects racism that went into those design choices.
I don't know what Pete spends all of his time on, but in my opinion, he should be spending less time worrying about how bridges are racist and more time making sure the bridges do not fall down. The more I look into this situation, the more questions I have. Let's look at the footage of the bridge collapsing. If you zoom in to the point on the bridge that actually breaks apart, you can see explosions and fireballs. What is this? Why isn't anyone asking about this? Why were there explosions on the bridge? Another question is, how did they shut down all traffic to the bridge with only 4 minutes notice? Let's break down the timeline to the second. 1:24:48 a.m., the dolly loses power. 1:27:25 a.m., the officers receive a radio warning on the bridge. 1:29:33 a.m., the dolly crashes into the bridge. The officers had 2 minutes to stop traffic across the bridge before it collapsed. The Baltimore Bridge was just over 1.5 miles long. If we assume it took the officers a minute to move their cars into position to stop traffic, that means that any car driving 60 miles an hour would not have made it across the bridge. They would have needed an extra minute. The timeline they are giving us is mathematically impossible unless they close the traffic to the bridge before they receive the warning call from the cargo ship. Now, how would they possibly know in advance that the bridge was about to collapse? Another question is, who were these officers that shut down the bridge? The story from the government is that they were 2 transportation officers, whatever that means, with radios stationed at either end of the bridge. They say they were there with the construction crew. One of the workers parked sideways across the lanes to stop the traffic. Isn't it strange that these 2 people just happened to be on site, ready to shut down the bridge? Unfortunately, the 6 people who were on the bridge who were actually doing the construction work were killed. The more you think about this story, the more it makes no sense. If these workers at either end of the bridge were part of the construction crew, they would have had a radio to call the workers to get off the bridge. If they are filling potholes, the construction crew had some kind of vehicle. Why didn't they just drive off the bridge? In fact, we know they had a vehicle because the 2 bodies that have been recovered so far were in a submerged truck. I don't understand how, if the people at either end of the bridge were part of the construction crew, and the construction crew had a truck, how did they not get off the bridge? What happened to the construction crew? I want you to listen to this interview. This was one of the last people to drive over the bridge before it collapsed.
It's really, it's hard to believe. I feel sorry for those workers. I really do. I mean, they're doing their job, but they lost their lives. So it's hard to I rode right by them. I saw all of them. Just a minute before they probably died.
He says that he saw the construction workers a minute before they died. And it doesn't sound like the construction workers were warned about what was going on. Why weren't they radioed by the people at the end of the bridge? If these two people were truly stationed at either end of the bridge for the construction crew, their whole job is to warn the construction crew. Why didn't they do their jobs? Unless they weren't actually part of the construction crew and the government is lying to us. In fact, we have the radio calls of the workers at the ends of the bridge. It doesn't sound like they were with the construction crew. This is evidence that the government is lying to us.
Want me to stop traffic on this site right now?
Yeah, if we can stop traffic, just make sure no one's on the bridge right now. I'm not sure where. There's a crew up there. You might want to notify whoever the foreman is, see if we can get them off the bridge temporarily.
10-4. Once the other unit gets here, I'll ride up on the bridge. I have all interloop traffic stopped at this time.
So if they were not there with the construction crew, why were they there in the position ready to shut down the bridge? Now, I'm not saying this was some sort of conspiracy. What I'm saying is that there are enough strange things that I don't understand why the news media is not asking any questions. Why are we taking the government at their word that this was all just an accident, when it defies the laws of physics and the timeline is not mathematically possible? The obvious concern is that this was a terrorist attack. We currently are having issues at the US border. Someone just captured video of this man. He became angry when he was questioned after crossing the US border in Texas.
These are the people that are coming in. Are the ones laughing.
It's very easy to find my face, by the way. If you are smart enough, you will know who I am. But you are really not smart enough to know who I am. But soon you're gonna know who I am. Very easy.
Wow, very easy. Terrorist attack, maybe. Terrorist attack.
This man says, "Soon you're going to know who I am." This man is Mavsum Samadov. He is the leader of the Islamic terrorist group Azerbaijani Islamic Party, and he served 12 years in Azerbaijan after being convicted of trying to overthrow the government. Why did we let this guy cross the border? It sounds like he's threatening to commit terrorism. Joe Biden has received a lot of criticism for his lack of border security. Here is John Kirby, the U.S. National Security Council Coordinator for Strategic Communications, when he was asked about border security.
Does President Biden think that some of these border crossers could be in the United States right now plotting a terrorist attack against Americans?
The president's confident that throughout the interagency, DHS, intelligence community, that we're doing everything we can to be as vigilant as we can to ensure the safety and security of the American people here at home.
He says we're doing everything we can. Really? A bridge just collapsed in Baltimore, and you determined after 5 hours that there was no way it could be terrorism. Is a 5-hour investigation really doing everything we can? I've got to say that on this small YouTube channel, I'm doing a more thorough investigation than the FBI. Another alternative, besides terrorism, is that the bridge collapse could be a direct attack from China. Did the police rule that out as well in 5 hours? Here's an article that was published in 2018. Container ships easy to hack, track, send off course, and even sink, security experts say. The ship could have been hacked by China. Another alternative, China could have just paid the pilot $1 million to run the ship into the bridge. Is it really impossible that a cargo ship pilot would take a bribe? The point is, how could the FBI possibly rule this out after a 5-hour investigation? It's important to understand the influence China has on the shipping industry. If anyone could pull off this attack, it would be China. Here's a report issued by the U.S. Marine Corps in 2022 about what China calls the Maritime Silk Road. Here is a map in the report of all the cargo ship harbors that China controls around the Indian Ocean. These are places China either has a majority ownership, a minority ownership, or handles port construction or financing. China doesn't just control their own country's traffic, they control the whole region. So any conversation around cargo ships is related to China, and they want to win. Another surprising fact about this whole situation has to do with someone I mentioned earlier. William Del Bagno is the FBI head of the Baltimore field office. He was appointed by FBI Director Christopher Wray 2 days before the bridge collapse. 2 days! Isn't that strange? I have been heavily critical of Christopher Wray on this channel because of his ties with China when he made millions of dollars in his previous job at a law firm called King & Spalding. Why isn't the news media asking questions about King & Spalding? Is Christopher Wray stopping William Del Bagno from investigating the possibility that China was involved in this attack? And is he doing that because he made millions of dollars from China in his previous job? What about Joe Biden? Is he not investigating the possibility of a Chinese attack because of the millions of dollars that his family took from China? Why is no one investigating this? But hold on, it gets worse. Mitch McConnell is a Republican leader in the Senate. A month ago, his sister-in-law, Angela Chow, died when her Tesla drove into a pond in Texas and she drowned. Angela Chow was the CEO of a cargo ship company. The police investigating the scene have determined that this was an unfortunate accident. What are the odds that this is another accident? Why do all these accidents keep happening? Let's just examine the facts. They found that the body of Angela Chow had a blood alcohol level of 0.233. That's 3 times higher than the legal limit of Texas of 0.08. Is it normal for the CEO of a major company to be that drunk and drive themselves into a lake? Keep in mind that this is a small woman. To achieve that high of an alcohol level, she would have had to have drunken like 10 drinks in a 2.5-hour period. I'm not even sure I've seen anyone drink that fast. Second, she was driving a Tesla. Don't Teslas have warning systems that keep them on the road? How did the safety systems on the Tesla fail so badly that she drove into a lake? Something does not add up here, but the police have determined that it was all an accident. Now, some people have falsely claimed that Angela Chow's company had something to do with the cargo ship Dolly that crashed into the bridge. That's not true. There is no relationship between Angela Chow's company and the Dolly. However, her company is related to China. If you are the CEO of a cargo ship company, you're going to have direct ties to China. In fact, we know that she does. Angela Chow is the sister of Elaine Chao, the former U.S. Transportation Secretary and the wife of Mitch McConnell. Their father was James Chao. James Chao was born in China. He studied at the university in Shanghai, and his classmate was Jiang Zemin, the future president of China. After Jiang Zemin came to power, James Chao would return to China and meet with Jiang Zemin at least 6 times. Now, I'm not suggesting that the wife of one of the most powerful senators is a Chinese spy, but you cannot deny that there's a relationship with China. In fact, Mitch McConnell's wife became the international advisor to the city of Wuhan. And it's a little strange that her sister dies 1 month before a major cargo ship disaster. What is also unusual is that Mitch McConnell just announced in February that he's stepping down as Senate leader. Why are all these things happening at the same time? Given all this information, I think it's actually more likely that the bridge collapse was not an accident. Now, we don't know for sure what happened, but I sure would like more than 5 hours of investigation before deciding that it's an accident. And can someone in the news media please ask some questions? Now, I need to ask for your help. Let me know in the comments down below. Am I crazy? Is there anyone else out there who thinks that the story from the government does not add up? Please let me know down below. And if you like this video, don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on future videos. I want to give you a quick update. My video last week got demonetized again. I was so frustrated because there's no reason I should be getting demonetized for that video. I actually appealed it, and YouTube removed the demonetization, and I have to give YouTube credit this time. They did work with me and they fixed it. So thank you to YouTube. But I did lose money when it first got posted. So I want to give a big thank you to everyone who has signed up for a monthly membership, because your support is what helps me to keep making these videos, even if I get shadow banned or demonetized. So if you want to help, you can sign up on my website, wolvesandfinance.com. For $6 a month, you can help me keep putting out these videos. I'm Zach from Wolves and Finance. Thank you for watching.